Good morning. Welcome. Happy Sabbath, everybody. I am so excited about this month. I know Garen talked about it last week, and we are, thank you, sir, pointing towards the 17th, but even beyond. We are looking forward this month to welcoming people back to Oasis. But I'm just curious, how many of you, is there somebody here who is visiting today? Anybody that's visiting? Oh, excellent, excellent. And I found out there's somebody here that I know your daddy. I just found out I know your daddy. And by the way, you look like somebody else I know. I won't tell you who that is right now, and it's all good, by the way. So, but we are glad that you're here, whether you're visiting or whether you're long timer. We're just glad that you're all here. I have a question to ask you. Do we have anybody here who is a brother? We have any sets of brothers here? There's brothers in the house? You have a brother here? Okay. Okay, do we have anybody that's over the age of 30 who has a brother here? Okay. I'm looking. Okay, they do? All right, cool. Do we have anybody here any sisters here? Where are they? Right here? All right. Now I'm going to go for the big, all the marbles. Do we have any twins in the house? Any twins in the house? No? Does Oasis have twins? We do? They're on vacation. Oh, darn. That's too bad. Well, that'd be cool. Are they females? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Well, that would be cool, but it'd be even cooler if it was two girls or two guys, whatever. But anyway, it would be nice if we had that, but we don't. But I grew up in a family of four. I have a brother who's almost 2 years younger, and I have a sister who's 5 years younger, and a baby sister who's 9 years younger. A little caboose. This little. Nah, she wasn't surprised. My parents knew what they were doing. Yeah, we'll go with that. But my brother and I were very close. In fact, if I could have found the picture, I still wouldn't have used it. Because it was one of those pictures, when my brother got old enough so that we were, at that 5 and 3 stage where he was almost as big as me so that we looked like we were kind of twins-like thing. You know how mothers back in that time period, lady, you know that time period I'm talking about where they used to dress you alike? Mothers, please hear me. Because my mom has this picture where they dressed us in these little, what do they call those outfits? Jumpers, yes. I mean, please, I'm telling you. And they were this material, what was that material called? Seersucker, yes. I mean, just anything that has the name sucker in it, please. Do not put your kid in that stuff. I mean, because that's going to be blackmail material for sure. But my mom had this seersucker material that she put my brother and I in, and it had the nice little white blousey looking top. And at the time, you're too young to know. You don't have any idea that you look, well, you know how you look. And so, but my mom has this picture of my brother and I, and then this was back in the days where they actually made appointments to get, it was before these, okay? Yeah. Okay. No, this was a good invention because it took away the need to go to Olin Mills or whatever and get sat in this whatever and get formal pictures taken that can be used to plaster all over the hallways of every house that you ever live in. Oh, here's my son when he was 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, documenting, okay, whatever. So I could have gotten that picture from my mom and showed you what my brother and I looked like as twins, which we weren't, but we looked like it. Anyway, enough of that. But my brother and I were great friends. We really were. And we really didn't ever fight that much. Well, there was that one time in the garage, and we were fighting over, guess what? We were fighting over a cigar box. Yeah, right, a cigar box. She's laughing even. Uh-oh, my sound just went out. God's probably not happy about me talking about a cigar box. But we were fighting over a cigar box that I don't even know where we got it because my dad didn't smoke cigars, my grandpa didn't smoke cigars, but we had a cigar box in the garage. And both of us because cigar boxes were the coolest things ever. They were nice and square and durable, and they had this flip-top lid that you could put stuff in it. I don't know what, but we both wanted it. And we were fighting for it. And I beat the crap out of my brother over a cigar box. As God is my witness, I apologize. We're all good. Forgiveness has been offered and granted and accepted, and so we're all good. I get to go to heaven and all that kind of stuff. But we fought one time. That's the only fight I can ever really remember that we actually went to the floor on. Was a cigar box. Who would have thunk it? Most of the time, whenever we fought, because my parents taught us, don't fight. And they said, don't ever get in fights, except, here's the thing, don't start it. Here was the rule. I got to remember, I wrote this down. Don't fight, but if someone else starts it, you guys, you know what it is? Don't start it, but don't run from it, but end it quickly and fairly if possible. The rule is, if they are bigger than you, go into survival mode. You know what I'm saying? Because there were places that you could hit them that could do things that, my dad, hit him right here really hard because tear ducts and blood does things to a big guy that can equalize them really quick. And the other place was, well, guys, you know where that place is. So hit him here first, and then while they're thinking about that, go to the other place. It's over. So anyway, kids, you did not hear that. Talk to your parents and ask them to explain what the pastor said about that. But my brother and I really did not fight. We didn't fight with each other, and we rarely got into the other kind of fights either because we were both kind of small. So you learn when you're small how to get along with people. You talk. I'm a good talker. And so you talk your way out of stuff. You get along with people. You become a diplomat. That's what you do when you're not big. And all you big guys, little guys don't fight a lot, and big guys don't fight a lot. Right? Because big guys don't have to. Nobody messes with big guys. Am I right? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Gabe. You don't have to fight because you're a big guy. All the people in between, they're the fighters. They're trying to impress the big guys, and they're trying to beat up the little guys to impress the big guys. So, whatever. Now, Jacob and Esau, that's what we're talking about today. Twins, but not identical in so many ways. Identical twins come out looking very much alike, and they have their unique personalities, but identical twins are different than fraternal twins. And these brothers were fraternal twins. And when Esau came out first, his brother was holding on to his heel, the heel grabber. And that was so prophetic about what their lives were going to be like. Esau comes out holding on to his brother's heel, the heel grabber. And we're not going to talk about their whole life story, but we're going to talk about some very important parts of their life story. Because as they grew, they became very distinctly different from each other. Esau was the swarthy, hairy, powerful hunter. He was the one that his daddy liked. He was probably everything that Daddy had wished he had been. And so when he went out and went hunting with his bow and arrow and came back with game that he fixed for his father, he became his father's favorite. Jacob, on the other hand, was smooth-skinned. He didn't have to shave until he was 18 or 19 or 20. Esau, on the other hand, was shaving when he was like 9. You know those kids. I remember when I was in academy, I had a friend. When I was a freshman, I still didn't have to shave. Meanwhile, I had a friend of mine who was shaving when he was in 6th grade. He had 5 o'clock shadow at 3 o'clock. I'm not kidding. This kid was just, he could scratch just like this at 6 o'clock. At night, he was having a beard. He could grow a beard overnight almost, it seemed like, because he was just one of those kids. The rest of us are like, we were so envious. Oh, man, that is so cool. I wish I could shave. And then when we finally had to shave, we're like, oh, that's not such a big deal. You got to do it the rest of your life once you start doing it. Esau was the swarthy, hairy. The father loved Esau. The mother loved Jacob. And this was going to get them into trouble. This was going to get them head to head. Isaac grew old. His eyes grew old. He couldn't see so well. As he came to the end of his life, he finally decided he needed to do something about the whole birthright thing, which, by the way, had already been sold one day when Esau came home from a hunt and said, I'm hungry, I need something to eat. You remember the story about what Jacob had done with that. I'll give you something to eat. Just give me your birthright, and I'll give you some of this little stuff I've got boiling over the fire here. The pottage, remember that? Just give me your birthright, and I'll sell you some of this. The birthright was gone. So one day, when Isaac was ready to end the whole confusion over who was going to get the blessing, he sent Esau out on a hunt. I need you to go out and prepare me some game. Go do your thing with your bows and arrows and bring me back some of that savory game that you're so famous for. Go do your thing. Meanwhile, outside the tent flap, who's listening? Mama's listening. And she hears him giving the instructions, and she runs quickly to favorite son. And she says, listen, Jacob, you got to do something for me, because you're about to lose that which God has promised to you. So I need you to quickly go out in your father's herd and get a couple of kid goats for me and bring them, and we'll prepare them. We'll fake Daddy out. He won't know a thing because he doesn't see so good anyway. And so we'll prepare what he wants, and we'll do it quickly before Esau gets back. Well, wait a minute. If we do this, he's going to know who I am. I'm not hairy like my brother. Wait, this is not going to work. Oh yeah, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. We'll do this. I've got some things. He'll come help me. I've got some things that'll fake Daddy out. He'll never know. I'll just put this around my face like this, and when he rubbed up against my face. Now, you'd never know if you just rubbed up against that, would you? Could you just tell? Could you tell? Go ahead and go show the kids, Gail. Show the kids. Would they be able to tell? Could you tell if I was... Don't I look like I need a shave? Oh, careful now. Don't tell your wife. I mean, if somebody came to you wrapped up in something like this, looks like a lamb's coat, would that fake you out? I mean, that's basically what he was doing. He's wrapping his face up and his hands up over his shoulder like this. Think about it, people. That's what he was doing. So she makes the meal. He gets all costumed up in lamb's skin. Now, turn to Genesis chapter 27. Genesis chapter 27. And look at verse 18. Genesis chapter 27, verse 18. Now, I want us to count real quickly. We're gonna pay attention to how many times Jacob lied or misrepresented to his father. Look at verse 18. It says, so Jacob took the food to his father. My father, he said. Yes, my son, Isaac answered. Who are you, Esau or Jacob? First question. Jacob replied, it's Esau, your firstborn son. Lie number one. I've done as you told me. Here is the wild game. Now sit up and eat it so you can give me your blessing. Verse 20. Isaac asked, how did you find it so quickly, my son? The Lord God, your God, put it, notice he doesn't say the Lord my God. He says the Lord your God put it in my path. Jacob replied. Lie number two. God didn't put that in his path. Verse 21. Then Isaac said to Jacob, come closer so I can touch you and make sure that you really are Esau. So Jacob went closer to his father, and Isaac touched him. The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's. Here's a misrepresentation. Remember, he's got this stuff on his hands. He says the voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's. So representation number 3. Verse 23 says, but he did not recognize Jacob because the hands felt hairy, just like Esau's. So Isaac prepared to bless Jacob. But he's not so sure yet. So he goes, verse 24, he says, are you really my son Esau? He asked. Yes, I am, Jacob replied. Number 4. 25, then Isaac said, now, my son, bring me the wild game, let me eat it, and then I will give you my blessing. So Jacob took the food to his father, and Isaac ate it. He also drank the wine that Jacob served him. Come a little closer and kiss me, my son. Here's betrayed with a kiss. Almost like Judas, right? So here's number 5. 27. Jacob went over and kissed him. Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, and when he was finally convinced, he blessed his son. This is number 6. He wore his brother's clothes. And then he says, the smell of my son is like the smell of the outdoors, which the Lord has blessed. From the dew of the heaven and the richness of the earth, may God always give you the abundant harvests of grain and bountiful new wine. 6 times he either lied or misrepresented himself to his father. This guy was all in with this deception. All in. Now, it's interesting. Verse 30, it says, as soon as Isaac finished blessing Jacob, and almost before Jacob had left his father, Esau returned from his hunt. Esau had prepared a delicious meal, brought it to his father, and said, sit up, my father, eat the wild game so you can give me your blessing. Isaac asked him, who are you? Esau replied, it's your son, your firstborn son, Esau. Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably and said, then who just served me the wild game? I have already eaten it and blessed him just before you came, and yes, that blessing must stand. The jig is up. When Esau heard his father's words, he let out a loud and bitter cry. "Oh, my father, what about me? Bless me too," he begged. But Isaac said, "Your brother was here and he tricked me. He has taken away your blessing." Esau exclaimed, "No wonder his name is Jacob, for now he has cheated me twice. First he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he has stolen my blessing. Haven't you saved even one blessing for me?" Isaac said to Esau, "I have made Jacob your master and have declared that all his brothers will be his servants. I have guaranteed him an abundance of grain and wine. What is left for me to give you, my son?" Esau pleaded, "But do you have only one blessing? Oh, my father, bless me too." Then Esau broke down and wept. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, "You will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword and you will serve your brother, but when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck." Now it's interesting. If you come down to the end of the chapter, look at verse 46. After all this stuff happens, look at the very last verse. It says, "Then Rebekah said to Isaac, 'I'm sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than see Jacob marry one of them.'" Do you know why she says that? If you go back to the very last verse of the previous chapter, look what happens. Because what they are just about to have to do is to send Jacob away. Her plan has totally backfired on her because she's got the birthright, she's got the blessing, she's got all that stuff. But now, because Esau is going to kill him if he stays around, they've got to send him away. And she says, I'm sick of these Hittite women. You know why she says that? Look at the last verse of chapter 26. Actually, read the last two verses. "At the age of 40, Esau married two Hittite wives, Judith, the daughter of Beeri, and Basmath, the daughter of Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah." And Rebekah is thinking, he married Hittite wives. I don't want my other son to marry a Hittite wife because these other two Hittite wives have just made my life a wreck. So I got to get him out of here. Well, guess what? The Hittite wives weren't the problem. They weren't the problem at all. She's just using that as an excuse to get son number two out of Dodge. Her problem and Jacob's problem had nothing to do with Hittite wives, not whatsoever. What was their problem? Their problem was that they tried to get by lying what God had promised them to get in His way and in His will and in His time. And their lying wasn't their problem. Lack of trust was their problem. If Rebekah and Jacob had simply trusted God to do what He said He was going to do, they would have had no troubles whatsoever. And Jacob marrying a Hittite wife wouldn't have been a problem at all either. But her blaming Jacob's problem and future problems on him possibly marrying a Hittite wife was the scapegoat for its real problem, his real problem. And lying is a family issue too. It goes way back. It goes way back. It started with Abraham. Abraham lied about his wife, Sarah, not being his wife. And you'd think that this man who was not unwilling to sacrifice Isaac when God asked him to would be able to simply tell the truth about his wife being his wife. You know what? I'm really glad that God paints the picture of who His people are with all of their warts, all their wrinkles, all their freckles, all their frailties. He doesn't sugarcoat who His people are. And He doesn't say, you know what, you have to be perfect before I'll take you, before I'll accept you. all these people in the Old Testament that are flawed, weak, screwing up all the time, those are the apple of God's eye. They're the ones that when you get down to the end of the New Testament and you look in Hebrews chapter 11, you see their names in the honor roll. And you don't see any of their sins recorded. In fact, they're the Hebrews Hall of Fame without any of their sins recorded. That gives me a little bit of hope, doesn't it you? Because I do some pretty stupid stuff too, don't you? Every now and then? You ever made a mistake every now and then? Anybody cheating their income tax? No, we don't want to go there. Cheating on your income tax is small potatoes compared to what they did. But God accepts us exactly the way we are, with all of our frailties, all of our faults, all of our weaknesses. You can't get any lower than what some of these people did. And they're the heroes. They're the ones that God has built his church on. Well, Jacob's on the run. He has to leave mom and dad and everybody behind. And while he does that, he's on the run for his life, and he takes a nap. And when he's taking a nap, he finds, as he's taking a nap, he sees a ladder. We're going to wrap this up pretty quick here, but while he's taking a nap, he sees a ladder, and he sees people going up and down on it. Gil, come help me for a second, so I don't fall and kill myself.
You're going to go on the top.
Oh, you think I can't?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. But that ladder is a representation of actually Jesus. Jesus is the ladder. And the ladder is the only way that we get to heaven. And by holding on to each other, we can hold on to each other and we can reach to heaven by climbing on Jesus. Amen? And when Jacob had that little dream, he woke up from that dream, and what's that?
Nothing.
When he got done with the dream, there wasn't an actual ladder, actually. It was just all something he saw in a dream. But he did have the stone that he had slept on, and he turned that stone up and made a monument of it, so that for all ages, people would remember what he learned there about how we get to heaven. And we don't get to heaven by working our way there. We get there by climbing on Jesus. Jesus is the only way we get to heaven. Amen? And as it came time for him to be reunited with his brother, who had still vowed to kill him when he saw him, he was getting closer and closer to that time, and he was still worried about it. And as he came close to that time, he one night found himself, as he was in prayer, wrestling with a being that he didn't know who it was. And that being was someone that was obviously more powerful than he was, because he was wrestling and wrestling and wrestling, but he couldn't overcome the being. And then at a certain point, that being simply put his hand on his hip. Let me ask a question. Has anybody here ever had a dislocated hip? Is anybody in the house that's had? You have? What's it feel like? Can you go into a little more detail than it hurts? It's excruciating, isn't it? From what I've been told, it's excruciating. And not only is it excruciating, but when you have a dislocated hip, you are basically immobile. I remember one time when I was a senior in high school, we were at our Olympics, they called it. It was kind of a track and field thing. And one of the events that they had was in the Collegedale Southern College's pool. They had some swimming events in there. And we were going to do a relay event that included going off the diving board. And I was going to do that particular thing. I remember going off the thing, and I when I hit the end of the board, there was a slick spot on the end of it. And when I hit it, my foot went out from underneath like this. And I came down and landed on the end of the board, half on and half off, right on my back. And I will never forget that, because what I found out is that I had a spondylolisthesis in my lower back, which I was not aware that I had at the time. But they picked me up out of the water, and then they said, "Here, let us help you walk." And so they were going to, and what happened is when my leg would hang, it felt like my right leg was being pulled out of the socket. It was excruciating. I mean, so as soon as I put my foot back on the ground, it was fine. But if I went up like this and my leg hung, it felt like somebody was literally pulling my leg out of the socket. So I couldn't use crutches because it was worse. So I couldn't walk, I couldn't use crutches. So they had to take me to a chiropractor, where they found out that when I hit the board, it had literally jarred my spine off center by about 2 inches. And it was a mess. Jacob wrestled with that being who literally touched his hip, and in one split second, his hip was out of socket. He lived with that injury for the rest of his life. I have wrestled with God and seen his face. That's what he did. And so when he came to see his brother the next day, he came as a crippled man, literally, if you will, dragging that leg as a crippled man. And he came bringing gifts, and the tally for gifts is, 400 sheep, 400, I forget what the total is, but it's in the thousands of animals that he came to give to his brother. And 2 brothers came together because one brother was willing to actually wrestle with God in prayer and admit that what he had done those years before was his fault and that he was wrong. Remember Fonzie? I was wrong. Sometimes it takes, in order for reconciliation and reunion, in order for that to take place, it involves admitting that we need to say we were wrong. I don't know. Maybe I need to say I'm wrong. But sometimes it's not always that. Sometimes it's just a matter of opening our arms. Sometimes nothing has to be said. Sometimes just a matter of saying, we're here, come on back.